Today's guest is Nat Janoff, a guitarist, composer, and teacher who's been a fixture in the contemporary jazz scene for over 15 years. Starting as a rock and metal shredder, Nat's journey took a transformative turn when he discovered jazz and Mahavishnu Orchestra's Birds of Fire. That led him to earn a degree in jazz performance from William Paterson University. With albums like Looking Through and Come Together, Move Apart, featuring world-class musicians, Nat's made his mark as both a composer and player. So join us as we explore his path from rock riffs to jazz improvisation and everything in between. So Nat, good to see you.
Same here, man. Thank you. I
Uh,
appreciate it.
Absolutely. Nat, you're a tremendous player. I wanted to talk to you because I know
Oh,
you also teach a bit too.
yeah.
But let's just say, aside from that, there's a lot of people who want to get into this business. They want to be a professional guitarist or jazz guitarist, whatever you want to say. If you're mentoring a young musician who's serious about the music, what's something that you definitely feel they should know, a piece of advice?
You know, I I would say what would be great is if you liked this kind of music, if you could learn a lot of tunes by ear. I kind of wish I did more of that when I was younger. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
It's such a I was somebody who kind of grew up with like I'd listen to it, but had the real book and things like that. And but if I kind of really I'm always trying to do ear training, right? I guess everything's ear training, but I felt like that having fast ears it's just great in general. No matter what style you're playing, that's one thing. You know.
So get your ear training together, in other words. Be
Yeah,
able
yeah,
to,
be able to, yeah, and you be able to like hear melodies and remember them and hear harmony. Yeah, I don't know if you ever went through this, like hearing jazz harmony, in the beginning. It's not easy. Gosh, it's tricky. So, and then the whole business part, right? It's changing like by the second. It's crazy. But it's almost like, if you can be good at video editing, if you can be good at creating content, or if that's not your thing, if you can get a side gig with somebody, if you're a pop person or, you know, I guess there are so many cool things now because we can do stuff, right? We can like look at what you're doing. This is great. Do a podcast. You could do, you know, you could maybe create your own teaching methods. I mean, it's pretty amazing. Or record your own album. It doesn't mean it's not like just because Blue Note doesn't want to put it out, you can't do it now, which is amazing.
yeah, so
So
basically, you have to kind of open your mind up to the possibilities, in
yeah,
the music world, not just the playing part of it in a
yeah. I
sense.
hate to say it. I wish it was, you know, you know how it is, just in playing. But um, yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, what's funny? Do you feel like I feel like as I've gone along, like there are bass players I bet who can play every day, right? But if you say you were a bass player, would you? I mean, I love music too, but you could get burned out. So it's like, do you? I really, what it is? I'm really getting at, like, can you make something? Can you create stuff that will help you, say, make money, and you don't have to exactly play or teach or something like that? So
You could win the
I don't know.
lottery. That would be nice.
Yeah, that would be great.
Or hit a slot machine.
Yeah,
No,
yeah,
but
the slots. That's it.
no, I
Um,
understand what you're saying. I mean, it's not easy, and there's a lot of people who think it's easy. Like, let's say you're playing a gig, there's someone in the audience there that just sees you, doing your thing. They're like, "Oh man, this guy, he's got it all figured out," or something. That's the thing. Is like there's such a mystery about this life, especially like when you're really like a working musician in the jazz
yeah,
world. What
yeah.
do you think there are any misconceptions out there about what we do among the masses? The general,
Oh, yeah, dude, you got the greatest job ever. They just see, like, especially if it's they're coming to see a gig. Let's just say you get a gig where you get it, or you're playing as a sideman with somebody at like Ronnie Scott's, and you're playing there, and oh my God, dude, this is so great. Yeah, it's great, but you know, um, it's not sometimes the way they think. It's not like you're getting, are you getting $10,000 and all that? Not some people can, but that wasn't my situation. you know, but it's just, it's that's a great question. I think people don't know how it's, it's funny. Would you say whether you know it or not, you're like an entrepreneur, whether
Sure.
you know it or not, unless you can maybe hook up, a good gig, either through like a show, a Broadway show, or you somehow get an amazing side. You're playing with Chris Bodie, you're playing with Chris Potter.
Have you ever done like any, did you ever play in the Broadway pit or ever sub like that before?
I haven't. I have friends who do it, and they're great players. And it's a great gig. It's a great gig. I kind of kick myself for not having maybe gone into it earlier.
Well, I mean, you could definitely do it unquestionably. It's just
Oh
that there's
no, I,
only,
I appreciate that. No, I appreciate it. You know what actually comes up for me, that this may sound terrible, is that, you know, the way, well, for guitar, um, you got to put a lot of time into those shows. And I don't know how much, and then you got to get into like a sub rotation. And I guess for me, I'd rather just put time into other things, that I really like. But what's funny? You bump up with that is like now you have to really generate some kind of result, where the other is a cool result, but it's part of this much bigger thing, which
well,
is right.
yeah, but we're talking about, I mean, I didn't think we were going to talk about shows and stuff, but like
Yeah,
this is just where the conversation's going.
sure.
Um, it's uh it's interesting because like I used to work on cruise ships and we would do like the
Oh, yeah,
best
yeah.
of Broadway hits,
Yeah.
So, you do that same thing every night. And I'm not putting it, there's some people who absolutely love being there every night. That's their
Sure,
thing.
sure. Yeah,
But
yeah.
it could, but feel like an office job sometimes when you're doing that
Yeah, yeah. I'm
because you
sure
just
that,
have to do the same thing like over and over.
yes, and I'm sure some of my friends would say that. Um, what's funny? Yeah, yeah, you have a really good point. I mean, could I do the same thing over and over for $500 a night? Possibly.
But you got to make sure you got
I
other
probably
creative
could.
stuff going on.
And then if you want to take off, yeah, I mean, I love those players. They're great. It isn't it funny? It's like the world of music is, it's a tricky thing, you
Well, it's
know.
an illusion. That's number
Yeah,
one.
yeah, yeah. And you brought up a lot of good points. I think the people who can get these gigs that go forever, they're really well. Usually, everyone on Broadway's, they're all great players. They're all,
Absolutely,
yeah, and
unquestionably.
they're all, and I think it's great that some of them, I know some of my close friends. Jake Schwartz does the Book of Mormon. Rick Molina does Wicked, and I know Rick even might have said to me,
Cliff
just
Almond does a Book
well,
of
yeah, yeah,
Mormon.
yeah. Just sort of like, I guess for all of us, there is a certain amount of luck, but I feel like, I just like yourself, you prepare, you work hard, and then maybe that can meet opportunity. So that's cool. But it's not like I'd rule it out. I don't know. Uh,
Well, you never know. It might, someone might say, "Hey, and can you
yeah,
sub?" And then the next thing. I mean, that's the thing. You mentioned the word luck, and I think anyone who doesn't use the word luck in this business is lying.
yeah, yeah, or yeah, yeah, or yeah, 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 yeah. You have a good point. You have a good point. It's sort of like that. You're in the right place at the right time. It also helps if you can do whatever you have to do to get that gig.
You got
Whatever
to
it is.
play. You got to schmooze. You got
Sure.
to,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not just playing your instrument and
Right.
then that's all there is to it.
Right.
Let me
Yeah.
ask you a question.
Sure.
You seem to perform pretty effortlessly. Like you just, when I watch you play, like it seemed like you're able to like almost like block out and just really be in the moment. I don't know if you could talk a little bit about. Do you find
Well, that's a good question.
performing challenging or at all? I mean, I know it's rewarding, but do you think there are components of it that are challenging just in a jazz context?
Yes, there absolutely. That's a great question. You know, I appreciate your. question here. Here's a funny thing. Is this the irony or what? I feel that I can play my best really when I
If you say
either
when no one's there, I'm gonna
yeah,
laugh.
when no one's there. Isn't that funny? If I'm aware of my like a friend of mine or a bunch of people, it's almost like I have to put myself in a place and just forget about them. So that's a great question because have you ever? I mean, I don't know if you've experienced this. Like, some of the things you have to execute, it's really tricky, and the more your brain, part of your energy is going to like, oh, I don't know, this guitar player's in the audience or whatever.
Yeah,
Oh,
like the hard
it's
part is
just
not the executing. It's like the hard part is like you see the owner of the club and then in the
right. No
back,
one's
and then you have to forget about it instantaneously.
right, like right. The owner or some other players you like, or it just right. It can just destroy everything. You're like this amazing chord melody you had. Now you're like, I can't think of it. I can't think of it.
Yeah, but the
Yeah,
mental part is what you're talking about, just being able to forget about it.
yeah. Yes. You ever notice that? I know for me, the more I'm attached to it, trying to be great, whatever that is, the more I just it just ruin everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Well,
funny, isn't it?
well, the thing is, we work technically on these things, and we want to execute them in time. So there we want to, and we want to play the things we hear, and those things are, technically hard and take a lot of time to do.
Yeah, yeah. You're right. Do you ever find? I mean, you know what? I've been trying to just come to this place of I'm just gonna play what I feel in the moment is what I'm hearing and go from there.
Yeah.
That seems to always work. So I might start to sing a little bit. You won't hear it because of the band, but I might try to sing stuff or just work. Try to let go. Yeah, good. That's a great point.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody yesterday and we were talking about improvising and it's like now it's so there's sometimes where you actually have to tell yourself before you start to solo, chill, relax,
Yeah, yeah.
take your time. You don't have to play right away, it's but
I have a hilarious. It's not hilarious. It's a story. Okay, it's not me. Someone once told me, and I can't remember his name. But he's a great. Actually, I probably shouldn't say his name. It's not bad. There's some great electric bass player who got this gig with Chick Corea. He was maybe Patitucci couldn't make it or something like that, or maybe he was even to be in the band. I
was he a
forget.
sub or he just was like
Yeah,
he actually
I
played with
can't
the
I
band?
can't remember that exactly. I wish I could. But here's something funny. I think Chick, of course, was one of his favorite artists, right? So he memorizes the stuff. He's playing with them, and it all sounds incredible. But Chick goes, dude, I mean, you did an amazing job, but your eyes were closed the whole time, and I couldn't like work with you. And I'm wondering, and I'm just making this up now. I can't say I know for sure, but I'm wondering if he was so freaked out playing with one of his favorite, that and sadly the fear, really what I'm talking about is your fear can get in the way of playing the best you can or doing something like that where you're like, dude, I'm going to play these parts. It's going to be amazing. Like I play this till I want to kill myself. But of course, part of playing with someone is the cool interaction. It's like if he's over there, like I'd love to cue him, but he's not looking at me.
Yeah. I mean he might have just he could have been so nervous, you never know
Oh,
that he
totally. Oh, and I totally get that. I guess what I'm trying to say is maybe actually, dude, this is an awesome thing you're talking about. I'll tell you what. I bet nobody talks about this. Here's what I mean. When you're talking about like playing, performing, there's the performing like you and I talk about where let's just say you're doing a gig and it's kind of like a mellow gig and it seems like low pressure and you feel like dude you're playing the best you can, right?
Mhm.
But what if you get a break where you can play with one of your even heroes? It would be such a shame that you couldn't bring that to this. I'll tell you, dude. I
Well, no, I think what you're saying is like that no matter the musician, like that they're even if they can play like with XYZ with their band in this place, that place, and
Right.
be incredible, but then the opportunity comes to like play with somebody, like it's all gone. It's all gone
Yeah, it's
sometimes.
all gone. Or isn't it? What would be so sad is you lose your chance because you couldn't just kind of bring, like you couldn't bring all that great stuff to the situation that right. So okay, here's something funny. This is so funny you're saying this. When I was at William Paterson, I'll never forget Dave Dempsey. He goes, "Hey, dude, this semester I'm going to put you in the big band." I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Okay." He goes, "The guest, this first semester, the guest is going to be Michael Brecker."
Oh my God.
But he goes, "I'm going to ask the dude who's running it to give you a feature with Michael Brecker, guitar and tenor." I'm like, "What?" Dude, we did this awesome Bob Minster tune called Lazy Day. It's like a gospel ballad thing. You would love it. It's great, right? Dude, I was terrified. I was terrified. I sat and practiced what I thought I could do over this tune. I don't know. I was lucky. I kind of played the blues,
Yeah.
but I it was hard to relax, you know. I just did the best I could. But to your point, yeah, I really you know, yeah, that's an excellent question. The hardest thing is to just let go and just be like, dude, I'm just gonna play the way I've always played. Is that weird? Instead of, oh my, I hope this will be great. I hope they like it. You
Yeah,
know?
well, it's that we're talking about letting go, but I think as artists that
Yeah,
what it's just this kind of like ebbs and flows thing where we're in the
true.
space for like maybe a couple weeks or a month, and then we like get pulled back because we want to get better. So it's never just like this. We just
Right.
it's I think it's like more accepting of like the journey. At this point, I'm
True.
hoping
Oh
that's
yeah.
what it is. And it's like, yeah, it's gonna suck sometimes,
Yeah.
but
Right. Right.
no one's dead at the end of the
Yeah.
day.
Yeah. I guess if you can, what? If I could just say one more thing,
Sure,
if you
sure.
can play without coming from like, I need your approval, that's the perfect place, and then you could just be yourself.
Yeah.
You know, for better or worse. You know.
Yeah, just be yourself.
Yeah.
And that brings me to another good
Yeah.
point I'd like to talk to you about. We're guitarists, there's like a whole world of jazz guitarists, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Uh, but how do you go about like thinking about when you find your voice in a hit, there's so much history to it.
Right.
Do you have like, did you have a point? Was there a certain gig you did or a record or like a period of time where you started to feel like I'm out of the phase of being just a guitar player and now I'm me with a voice?
You know, that's great. You know what's interesting? I always just tried to do things that were interesting to me, and I wanted to hear, or I wanted to express myself. Like, I love certain players, of course, and you can probably hear that. But I guess I was always. I have a funny thing to tell you. In this Coltrane biography, there's a great one by Lewis Porter. It's got like this crescent moon on the front. He once was saying, he goes, I thought Coltrane arrived at a cool place because he was drawing on almost disparate influences. Like, so what's not, so I'm almost interpreting that as, if you like dance music and you like Wes Montgomery and you like, don't feel like you can't somehow put those together, or you like exotic, some kind of like Middle Eastern stuff, or you like R&B, like gospel music. Whatever. Because what's nice is your particular group of things that you like will really only be to you. Like, you just have, your taste. It's going to be. No one has the exact same taste as Abe Ovadia. You know, so that can be a cool thing to draw on, or even, like, I have a million books. I collected all this stuff, on jazz, and because I love learning stuff, and sometimes I might find something that sounds neat, sounds a little unusual, but I might try to use that because I think it sounds kind of cool. So, um, I yeah, I don't know. I guess I've always thought of it that way in a
Oh
way.
yeah, just take from all the music you like, not
Yes.
just the standards.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
when a student's in school, like if like if they grew up listening to like Led Zeppelin or something,
Yeah, yeah.
like maybe at that point they're like, I'm not never playing Led Zeppelin again on a jazz gig. But like then like 20 years later, it's like, why not?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Why?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, why not? Or Jimmy Page does some kind of cool thing. You could, maybe you could do, do something with that. Down, 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 down. Do some like makes, or just to your point, yeah, exactly. You know, I
Don't
you know
just
what?
like jazz, like what you like.
Yeah, 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 and but it's funny now. Maybe I'm going back to more of the classic stuff and just going through it because it's so great. I maybe I didn't appreciate it as much when I was much younger. I mean, I knew it was awesome. Like, yeah, West is great. But I guess you have your taste change or things you're interested in.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
that's good.
do you have like what are those recordings that you've been like going back and checking out that you did when you were
Um,
younger?
you know, just like so I have a buddy of mine recently was like, hey, let's play confirmation, right? So I'm like, oh god, the bebop stuff, right? So oh my god, dude, that's tricky to play fast. But you know what's funny? I thought, dude, I'm gonna actually maybe write down pieces from Charlie Parker. I'm gonna do my own little bebop investigation because all over the web you probably see Barry Harris and all. And Barry was an amazing teacher. By the way, I took one class with him, and it was super cool. Actually, it was so long. Like, what's
Yeah.
going on, bro? I had to leave. I said to my friend Amanda, I'm like, Amanda, I went there with Amanda Monaco said to me, she goes, let's go to this.
Oh,
And
I'm doing a interview with her like in a couple weeks, I think.
oh, oh, great. She's great. And we went there, dude, somewhere in the East Village. And God bless Barry, man. He just, you know, he's singing. It's brilliant. He's like, play this, and I'll never forget Hal Galper. Hal Galper did these like seminars with William Patterson, and he's really he's a brilliant guy. He's an amazing teacher, and he would say sometimes the best learning is like somebody plays something and they say, copy me, you copy me, or you copy this. So, but back to your questions, I thought, let me learn some of this stuff, these ideas, and I'll see, like, is that this bebop scale, that is that, so I just started to do that. And I'll probably go to some West stuff and some, I'll probably just, go back to, I mean, gosh, what's there? It's like, so this was confirmation. I love like Green Dolphin Street from, is it like the 58 sessions or something? It's like a Miles, there's a bunch of those, and they just play great stuff. It's just amazing, um, to hear that.
I'll tell you a quick story about You're funny you brought up confirmation. I just want
Yeah.
you're going to appreciate this.
Okay.
Okay. So when I was at Berkeley, I took like a bebop like lecture class.
Oh, okay.
And like I was like really young. Everyone else was much older than me.
Yeah.
And they already like so like the teacher wanted us to like play through the song, like all the chord changes and like with all the arpeggios and different inversions
Oh,
in time. And like everyone could do it and I couldn't do it. I walked out of the class crying, you
I,
know?
I'm with you, man. I'm
I
with you.
called my mother. I said, I don't want to I want to go back on the cruise ship. I can't do this, you know? This is too hard, you know?
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was, but I mean, it, this is hard. Even
It's
still thinking about doing that now and doing what they ask is hard.
No, no, you're right. It's not easy. Have you ever? Isn't it funny? Maybe because of my like coming from rock and roll, like it's so much fun to play on tunes that the chords are longer. Like all
Yeah.
blues. That's so much fun. Like or standards that are like medium, and then they're like each chord's a bar. But when you get all that like two beats, stuff, it's like it's
Yeah. It's like you just have to like think about getting back to the one or whatever the
yeah. That's
time.
you're right.
Like there's
It's
no
true.
time to think about every little thing. Like who's got
Totally.
time? You know, I mean,
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. But there's so much I guess there's so much to learn there. It's an amazing style. You know what I want to ask you. I have a great question for you because this is going to make you laugh. I never really dove into this part. Like, I'm wondering, is there any information about how, like, Bird, like Dizzy, how did they think of bebop? Like, what made them say, let's try to do more of this? You know?
I think I mean I have a guess, but I don't
No, no.
just about I think it has to do with like you mean playing like big up and down stuff over
Yeah,
the
yeah. Then they start to do chromatic stuff, which was so cool. I mean, it's like it.
from what I can gather, I think
Yeah,
I think it's all about like playing transposing ideas, no matter how small. You know what I mean? Like
yeah, yeah,
playing
yeah.
like one little idea, then moving it up a fourth,
Oh,
or
yeah,
then
yeah.
move.
That's true. Yeah,
I
and
think it's and then eventually it's going to become linear, and then it's going to have to come back down.
right.
But I mean, this stuff is actually like pretty guitar friendly, I think, you know.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Um,
when I think of Louis Armstrong going like bo bo da 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 da, playing just like a cool triad, I can see how like let's what are the other notes that fit over C6? So you know, um,
and let
I
me just, I could be totally wrong. I could
no no
be,
I no no no
yeah.
that makes a lot of sense. It's like it's remarkable how like how much more complicated it became then. And I didn't I did I mean maybe I'm wrong, but I used to hear stories that a lot of some of the swing guys were like, "Dude, this shit's bananas. I'm not gonna get it."
You
you know,
know, it's there's so much when it comes to repertoire
right?
and like standards and bebop and the modal, and it's just like I don't. It's like you can almost feel guilty sometimes, like, oh, I don't have enough of this or in my playing, you know?
You can. I guess you know what's funny. Maybe do you feel like so? You know what? When I start to think it's so too overwhelming, I kind of try to think like the fun thing is it you'll never get it all,
You'll know, yeah.
and it's an endless road of cool stuff to discover. But I bet like even just you playing over any of these things now, I bet it would sound great. And you know what's nice too. You don't need to know every possible thing about what to play over D minor. As long as it's grooving and you're saying something. So
Yeah, well, I think a lot of it has to do with, who we study with and
true, true.
who messes our mind up.
Yeah, that's you know what that's brilliant. What
I
you
mean,
just said.
my mentor, he screwed me up big time,
Oh, oh,
big
I'm
time.
sorry, man.
No, it's all good. I
No,
mean, like, it's
you
just,
know, I empathize with you. I've been through some stuff as well. Um, do you find like you come to an awareness about it where you can do you feel like what would you describe it? Can you sort of like let it go or you're aware of it and it doesn't have to, make you crazy anymore or
um, I think, just go on the ride and be kind to your mind,
right.
as
Yeah,
this
yeah, yeah.
thing
That's
says.
I like what you're saying there. Yeah.
I mean, it's never gonna, just. I think if you, to be honest, we study so much, we practice so much that I think if you just stay in a place of like, a good place mentally, I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
then I think your playing will just kind of like won't have as many, nicks and bumps in it. You'll just play like yourself.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And I think that that's so great what you said. Dude, here's a funny thing. I had this funny experience once playing at the 55 bar. I was starting to feel really down about like I'm standing there like I'm getting these weird feelings and I'm like and I just was like, look, dude, you know what? You, you can never know. The idea of being worthy of something. No one knows absolutely everything about, say, jazz music. Of course, there's some amazing people out there who, maybe they can transpose anything, they can play any tempo, they know 1,000 tunes,
Yeah.
and that's awesome. But here's the thing that popped in my head, which was just like, if you feel like you have something to say, then that's all that matters.
Hmm.
Who gives a shit about? But yeah, the other stuff is great. You can work on that forever. But if you have something to say, there'll always be people who love you and who will hate you even.
Yeah.
And that's how it is no matter what. And basically that it can allow you to say, fuck it.
Yeah.
you know, you know, and that's a very for me a very freeing thing. I'll never forget if someone I was with we were watching David Binney, and she just said she goes, it's like he doesn't care, but she didn't mean that like he doesn't care like that it's not going to be a great evening or that he's not going to play well. It's sort of like this is me, and you could take it or leave it,
Yeah.
you know. So
No, that's a great point.
yeah,
It's you have to just be able to just say F it. And easier
yeah,
said
yeah.
than done. It's a process. And no, this is like really interesting to talk about. This is like stuff people don't talk about.
No, they don't. And you know what? I got absolutely zero help when I was at school about any of this. There's no the do you feel like the psychological part is amazingly powerful, or just in life in general, I guess, too, in a way.
The psychological stuff can like, ruin you,
Oh,
when it comes
absolutely,
to music.
absolutely. You know.
And people will know. But even it's funny because in jazz, like I've been talking a lot about this on my podcast, and I think hopefully I'm spreading some awareness about it,
Hmm.
which is just that there's so many like dichotomies of the music, like people who play like, organ trio and people who play more like, funky stuff, or people who play bebop, or people who play more free on the form, or people play
Right.
like it's all, you know what I mean? And one thing is not, one cannot degrade the other.
Yeah, that's true. I agree.
And it's like the scene will be great in music and life if everyone just says we all just have our way to contribute to it. But
I agree.
but I think a lot of the problem is like the condescension amongst these different subgenres.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Oh, yeah, because what's awesome is all these possibilities exist at once, which is great. That's what makes it so cool, actually.
Yeah.
And you might be in the mood for a certain thing, or maybe this is not your thing. That's cool. It's someone else's thing.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
definitely.
cool.
No, Nat, this has been so much fun to talk, and we'll definitely have to do it again. The clock is we're
Oh,
approaching the
oh
but
wow,
this has been great, man.
wow, that's amazing. What time is it?
It's 1:36.
Okay. Oh
Yeah.
wow, that's great.
But we can always do it again. Like I'm doing this all the time.
Oh
So
no, no, I appreciate this. This is really great. I appreciate this talk.
so where can everybody find your social media and stuff? Just so we're gonna plug that.
Well, you could look up Nat Janoff on I'm on Facebook, on Instagram, same thing. I have Guitar by Nat. It's a just a simple website. A buddy of mine just I let natjanoff.com slide into the internet graveyard. I have to get it back. But this is just a little website on the teaching stuff. And then YouTube, I have a lot of stuff on YouTube. Just
Awesome.
under my own name, Nat Janoff. So